going round and round. There we go. I think I am now live. So what we'll do is we will wait to see how many people get on, if there's anybody having issues. So if people can let me know when they're on. Hey Charlotte, how you doing, chick? Yeah, just a matter of waiting to see. So if everybody could just give me a quick wave when they're on and they're live, so just so I don't miss anyone. Ooh, shiny head. So if everybody's okay, just to send me a quick comment, just to let me know that you're on. Okay, yep. Bradley on. What time are we on? Okay, it's only 1 minute past, so we'll give it a couple of minutes. People should be getting notifications now. Let's have a look. Okay. Guys, can you just send me a quick message if you're on, just on the comments section at the bottom, just to let me know that you're on, because I've only got a couple of messages here, so just so I can get started. Emails are coming through all right. Okay, so right, so we've got 11 people on so far, so what I'll do is I'll just get started. The reason why I've decided to do this today is, as of tomorrow, it has been 2 years since I finished radiation. So I'll start from the very beginning, and we'll see. So if anybody's got any questions or anything that they want to ask as I'm going through it, is absolutely fine. Just drop me a quick message. So as when it first started, it was December 2017. I was laying in bed with my daughter, and we used to have what we call snuggle nights when my husband was at work. And we'd sit in bed and we'd eat a load of rubbish, we'd watch some rubbish on TV, and we'd tell each other what was worrying us or what was going on and that kind of thing. So what my daughter asked me was, Mum, how do you check if you've got breast cancer? So as I did, was lay there in bed, so just like arm up, and you check round here with the palm of your hand, and then you go like this, and then I went, what the hell's that? And I found a really small lump just at the top there. And I thought, no, it's not going to be anything. I've been checked like 3 times before, and just being overcautious and all this kind of stuff. So I sat there watching TV, and it was in the back of my mind, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to have to go and get checked. And I avoided it, and avoided it, and avoided it, until January the 25th. I made an appointment a couple of weeks before, and I ended up at Oldham Hospital in what they call the one-stop shop. Absolutely fantastic, by the way. And I went in there, and I went up with my mum. And I remember I got in there at 9:30 in the morning. I was really nervous, and I remember going into like the long lobby side of it. She's had I've gone into the consultation, come out, and then I've gone in to see the surgeon, Miss Bramley. And I remember lying on the bed, and I've got my arm above my head, and she's having a good old feel. And I'm thinking, oh, I've not had a fondle in a while, just having a little bit of a giggle. And I remember looking up at her face and I says, "What do you think?" And I'll never forget the words that came out of her mouth. They ring in my ears. And she basically looked me in the eye and said, "I'm as worried as you are about it." She asked me to go and wait in the hallway. I went straight into the bathroom and I was actually physically sick. The nerves completely took over. So I had to go in, have a biopsy. I had to have a mammogram. And then she shouted me through to the room. It felt like forever, but this was only 11:30 in the morning. And she took me through to the room. I remember my mum was sat just over the side and I was sat on the bed, and I kept thinking to myself, you know what? It's going to be fine, it's going to be fine, it's going to be fine. It always has been. I had to go to the Nightingale Centre once and it was fine. And I sat there and she came in and literally just behind her was a Macmillan nurse. And I knew, instantly I knew. And she says, "I'm really sorry to tell you, but it is cancer." So I remember looking at her and went, okay. I had nothing in my head. Like some people say, oh, they were talking, I couldn't hear them, but I had nothing. I had completely blank, which probably isn't that much different to normal. But anyway, so I'm there and I says, right, what now? So she says, you're going to have to come back later on because even though we know that is cancer, we need to find out what type of cancer it is. I need you to come back at 4:30. So I'm like, yeah, that's absolutely fine. And the surgeon walked out. And anybody who knows me, I'm jovial about everything. I laugh, I joke. But this Macmillan nurse looked at me and she went, "Take my card." And I went, "I don't want your card." She went, "No, take my card." I says, "I don't want your card." Now, to me, taking that card meant that it was real. And I didn't want it to be real. My whole life had just turned upside down. I didn't want to take her card. So she put the card back in her pocket and she says, "Okay, do you have any questions?" I says, "No, I just want to go." Now I left there, I got in the car. Now the drive was 20 minutes to get home normally. It took me nearly an hour. I went the wrong way. I went all round Oldham. I have no idea how I got home. I don't remember the drive. I dropped my mum off and I phoned my sister. And I remember she picked up the phone, and excuse me if I get a little bit emotional here, and she picked up the phone and she went, "So come on, tell me." And I went, "It's not good news." And I don't remember much after that. Now, our mandate is absolutely amazing. But I don't remember much after that until I went into the house, and I remember going upstairs. Now I had the paper stitches on my boob, and I went upstairs, and my husband was working nights at the time. Excuse me. My husband was working nights at the time, and I went upstairs and I went round the bed, and I sat on the side of the bed and I looked at him, and he got up and he rubbed his eyes. He went, "Well," I said, "it's not good news." And he says, "Don't worry, we'll get through it. We'll figure it out. Don't worry." Now, I've gone out of the bedroom across the landing, and as I've gone across the landing, my daughter's come out the bathroom and she went, "Well?" I went, No, it's fine." Now, I don't know what possessed me to lie. No idea whatsoever. But to tell my husband and to tell my daughter were two different things. Now, my daughter is my life, and the hardest thing was telling her. So I thought, you know what, if I lie to her, I'll figure it out later. So she's like, "Mum, you're lying." I went, No, I'm fine. I've got to go back later. They tell me, how to take care of this." She went, "Mum, you're lying." Now, bearing in mind, my daughter's 18 at this time. And I'm like, No, I'm fine. So I walked downstairs because I couldn't handle the conversation. And I went downstairs. I stood in the kitchen. And as I turned around, she come in behind me. She went, "Mum, you're lying, aren't you?" I went, "Yeah, I'm lying. I've got cancer." And the noise that came out of her, she was hysterically crying, and I was holding her, and I was literally holding her up. And I didn't know what to say. And literally it just came into my head, and I just went, "What are you crying for?" She went, "You've got cancer, you've got cancer." I went, Whoa. Again, what are you crying for? I says, "Am I stood in front of you?" She went, "Yeah." I went, "Am I breathing right now?" went, yeah. And I went, am I going to, excuse my language, kick the arse out of this? She went, yeah. I went, right, stop crying. I didn't know how else to handle it. So that's how I went in, and she instantly stopped crying. It was like, right, I'm coming back to the hospital with you, blah, blah, blah. We went back up to the hospital, and yeah, it was one step after the other. So I had the operation literally 4 weeks later, which is called a lumpectomy. So those who are squeamish may want to kind of close your ears. So basically what they did is they went into the breast, because I told them, just take it off. I don't want it, get rid of it. I have fell out with it. Me and this one do not get along. Just get rid of it. But the doctor actually turned around and said that the survival rate is exactly the same with the type of cancer that I had, which was called HER2 negative, which is a estrogen fed cancer, and it was contained in the duct gland. So I think it's called a ductal carcinoma. Don't quote me on that though, because I've slept since. So she went in through the nipple, went up, took the cancer out, pulled the muscle together, sewn it together, and then put my nipple back on. And apart from a little bit of an indentation, you can't really tell. Now, I remember before the operation, I was having a chat with the surgeon, and he was like, oh, you're amazing the way that you're coping with it. And I heard that a lot. Aren't you dead brave? Aren't you doing really well? Little did they know, I was broken. Extremely broken. But I had people around me that cared. Now, after the operation, I think it was round about 6 weeks, and I went back up to the hospital, and they were giving me, the results, and she said, we managed to get it all with clear margins, which basically means they took the cancer and they took quite a bit around the edge just to make sure that nothing had gone astray. And then she said the magic words. My lymph nodes were clear, because they went under this arm and took out some lymph nodes just to make sure, because that's the channel that it goes through, if it goes through. And they were clear, so that was good news. And then the next bit of news came. She says, well, my advice to you would be to have the chemotherapy. And I went, I'm not having it. Not having it. And my daughter was sat to me right, and she went, you'll have whatever they give you. So I thought, well, if it may come back again. And so I decided to go for it. So on the Friday before the chemotherapy started, on the Tuesday, I think, I decided to have a head shaving party. Now, my hair was down to here. Long blonde hair. My hair was my thing. The wisping of the hair. And I remember everybody came, they wore all the t-shirts, and again, sorry if you're prudish, but on the t-shirt it said, cancer can suck balls. I had it up on Twitter, I was sharing it everywhere. I was like, what, this is the only thing that I can take control of, because the cancer took control of me, and it was taking over my mind as well. Now, anybody who knows me knows that I have got such a zest for life. I'm so happy, and I'll joke even if I'm feeling rubbish. I'm just like, yeah, I'm fine. It's this kind of personality that I have. But this took all that from me. It took my self-esteem. It took my confidence. It took my strength, my ability to put one foot in front of the other at times. And I had 6 rounds of chemo, 1 every 3 weeks. Now, it was tough, but I didn't really think of anybody else apart from myself. I was kind of wrapped up in what was going on for me, and I was like, no, I'm fine. And then everybody again, oh, aren't you dead brave, aren't you dead strong? And FYI, that's probably the worst thing that you can say to somebody who's going through treatment, because when you're saying, aren't you dead brave, aren't you dead strong, you're dealing with it really well, you're taking the ability away from that person to be vulnerable. So they have to, if you're saying that to them, then I can only speak for myself. Then I felt like I had to put on this front for everyone. And, smile on pictures and all that kind of stuff. So it was just a matter of putting one foot in front of the other for me at that time. And sometimes I couldn't even do that. Now, when I got to the fourth chemotherapy and it changed over to something called Toxotere, that bad boy was not good. I had 200 milligrams, and I don't think that was right for my weight, but we'll leave that there. Those who know me know the story about that. And it literally floored me. I couldn't walk, I couldn't eat, I couldn't drink, I couldn't go to the toilet. Everything tasted like sawdust, which it does on chemo anyway. But you know what? I was getting through it. It wasn't all doom and gloom. I went to Friends Fest. I had my husband waiting on me, hand and foot. My sister, get this, how awesome. My sister, when I told her that I had cancer on that day, within 24 hours she was on my doorstep. Now, she lives quite a way away from me. She got on a plane and she was on my doorstep. As soon as I saw her, I knew that I was going to be okay. I have a will to fight. Halfway through the chemo, nearer the end, but my daughter told me she was pregnant. I'm now a grandma. I had a lot to fight for, and fight I did. So it got to the end of the chemo, and I was like, I was bald. I had no eyelashes, I had no eyebrows, I had no hairs on my arms or my legs, which was a blessing, by the way. The peach fuzz was gone. All that was great, but my whole identity had just been stripped away from me. I was actually going through pictures today and videos, memories, that kind of thing, and just kind of looking back, looking at the pictures, it was just like, oh my God. Now, don't get me wrong, the fight wasn't over at that point. Then I had to go through radiotherapy. Now, radiotherapy is nowhere near as bad as chemo, not at all. Now, radiotherapy, you go in, you lay on a metal table, you've got the bad boys out, they cover one up, and they concentrate on the bad one. You don't feel anything, don't get me wrong. Some people, we all react differently, but I didn't feel anything. I had no burn marks. I did everything that they told me to, putting on the creams and all that lot. And I was getting a bit sunburn. Not only did I get sunburn, but I had blue underneath, so I had like a Smurf boob with a bit of tanning on the other side, and that boob just literally got obliterated. But it was all about preventing it from coming back. So once that was done, it wasn't bad at all. I'd go to radiation and I'd go to work in the afternoon. I used to work at Bupa as a therapist. So I'm in there, I'm doing my thing, I'm going to work, and then I'm going back having more, then go to work. And it was great. Now, after that, I started to think, how was it affecting other people around me? Now, that started the thought process in my mind, but I'm still wrapped up in all my own stuff. Now, after I finished the chemo and the radiation, I remember going into the doctor or the surgeon, and they turned around and says, right, well, we'll see you in 12 months. Really? That's it? Well, you've got to have medication, and you've got to have something called Zoladex, which is an injection in your stomach which turns off your ovaries, and it'll send you into menopause. And by the way, I've only just turned 39 and I'm in menopause, hence the reason why my face is a bit red. So menopause isn't as bad as you think. So I'm having these injections, got this medication. What now? Now, one thing that I've always said is, when you're going through the treatment, when you're going through the chemo, the radiation, and doctors are all fussing around you, Jean, Kim, what can I do for you? What can I eat? Do you want a cup of tea? You hear the word cancer and you go, oh my God, what do you want? I remember going shopping while I was halfway through treatment. I had the little chemo hat on. you can tell. And the kids are the funniest, you know, they look at you like that, go, like, you know, it's adorable. But, you know, people can't do enough for you because as soon as you say cancer, that's, you know, you think that's it, pack your bags, you're done. But it's not the case anymore. But while the doctors are taking care of me, speaking the first, it's absolutely fine. But once that treatment ended for me, it was like somebody had just pulled the rug out from underneath my feet. And I didn't know what I was going to do now. And that's when the mental health issues started for me. While I was going through while I was going through the treatment, it was just like a rush. I was on this conveyor belt, and you know, I was going from doctor to surgeon to, you know, clinician to the, and I was fine while I was doing that because they was all taking care of me. But then after the treatment in the hospital had ended, that's when I hit that brick wall. That's when the fear started to creep in. Is it going to come back? Is it going to come back? Now, don't get me wrong, I've met a lot of really good friends through going through the treatment, and I've even got personal mobile numbers from Macmillan nurses, you know, because this is the kind of person that I am, you know, and I try and volunteer, I try and do all kinds of stuff. But I'm like, but what now? And I felt lost. And I had my husband, I had my sister, I had my daughter, I had my mum, you know, I had friends. One of my friends, Leela, she used to just turn up with cake while I was going through treatment. She was like, I don't need to stay, just have the cake and I'll leave. You know, people around couldn't do enough for me, but the saying that I had was, the doctors took care of me from the neck down, but left me alone from the neck up. My head completely went. I was constantly checking. And, you know, the more and more you check, the more and more you find something. You know, you imagine it's there, or, you know, oh, what's that? And the amount of times I went back to the hospital, I was there every few weeks, and I remember Miss Bramley said to me, you know what, you don't get frequent miles for turning up as much as you do. And it was like every 3-4 weeks I was in there, and I was just like, I'm really struggling. And I remember once, it was not long after Christmas last year, and I remember I was going up to the hospital again, and I thought, I can't do this, I can't keep doing this. And I was driving up, and as I was driving towards the hospital, I remember doing about 40 miles an hour, and I looked at a tree, and that scared the crap out of me. I thought, I need to get help. This completely screwed me up. So I went in to the hospital for my check, and I must have been in there for about an hour and a half just crying. And they were like, listen, you need to speak to a counsellor, you need to speak to your GP, go to your GP. They were brilliant with me. And I remember walking out of there, getting in the car, and I got halfway home to the Asda car park, and I parked up in the car park because I was worried because I was driving and I was scared. And I phoned my doctors, and I did not expect what happened next. The receptionist stayed on the phone to me for nearly an hour, talked to me, where are you, what are you doing, and my head had just gone. And it was like I said before, with the pulling the rug from underneath me, that's how it felt. Now I went up to the doctors, and the doctor went, medication. And I says, I don't want the medication, I want you to help me. And now, being a qualified therapist, practicing therapist, I knew what I needed, but the doctor didn't have time to give it to me. So I thought, right, what I'm going to do. So I started going to the gym, and it became a little bit obsessive. Lost a lot of weight. And then the pandemic hit, and I couldn't go to the gym anymore. And I could feel myself going down. And I was starting to take a bit of a nosedive, and I was starting to check again. I was constantly checking. And then I went back to the hospital. I was like, I found another lump. It wasn't, it was scar tissue. But to me, it was a lump. The cancer was back. Every little slight little twinge. Is it back? Is it back? And it was just a constant fear. Now, don't get me wrong. No, actually, I didn't think about it all the time. You know, it was every slight little movement, every hiccup, every sneeze. It was like health anxiety had kicked in. And I couldn't control it. I had no control over it whatsoever. And I talked to people and it just wasn't helping. So I went back to the GP. And he went, medication? And I went, okay. Best decision I ever made, because it controlled the OCD side of it. Now, OCD, a lot of people think it's about, you know, cooking, cleaning, you know, windows, doors, and it's not. It can be about obsessive thoughts. You know, them thoughts that come into your mind and you go, whoa, where did that come from? I'm sure a lot of us have had them thoughts every now and again. And these thoughts were just, they were too much. So the medication that they gave me, sertraline, not ashamed to say it, they gave it me, and it really did. It really did help. And the first day when I went through not having one single thought of the cancer and what it took away from me, it was bliss. Now, when I started to take the medication, then I started to think a lot more about how it affected the people around me. Now, I met a really, really, really good friend, Farida. She might be on the live. If you are, hey sweetie. And she sent me a video, and it was about a lady that was recently diagnosed and a lady that was diagnosed years ago, and the different thoughts and the feelings around it, you know, from one process to another. And I think it was 2 different types of cancers. And I remember one of the questions that one lady asked the other, and she says, I remember saying to my husband, did you ever look at me like I was dying? And I took that question away with me after I listened to it. And Brad, my husband, I remember sitting on the chair and I looked at him and I said, did you ever look at me like I was dying? And he said, yeah. Now, throughout the whole process, not once did he ever break down. Not once did he ever say, I'm not okay. Not once did he stop and feel sorry for himself. He provided for us both. He just went out to work. He was a doer. He just went out and he provided for us both and looked after me and cooked and cleaned and washed and ironed. And I remember, you know, I wanted to try and help him one day, and I was going upstairs. I think I was going to get some washing or something. And I went upstairs and I held onto the banister and I could feel myself go. And as I fell down, I didn't let go of the banister and I smacked my head on the door frame. And I remember he went, Kim! And he come running up the stairs. And I'm like, I'm okay, I'm alright. I really wasn't. I really, really wasn't. But he was just always looking after me, and I didn't think of how it affected him or the people around me. Now, my sister, it affected her massively. I just didn't realise, and I was all about me, and now when I look back, it's a ripple effect. Now, physical illness, not just cancer, but it can be any kind of illness when it impacts on other family members. A lot of people, including myself, it was like, well, I'm struggling, and I never extended that out to how it was affecting the other people around me. Now, my daughter struggled with it, because mum was vulnerable. Now, anybody who does know me, I am a very strong character, both physically, mentally. I'll always push myself way past my limits. I've always been like that, you know, I'm the fixer, I'm the doer, but I couldn't fix anything. And I pretty much couldn't do anything. I was literally a shell of a person. But now, I went through all that treatment because I wanted to live. I went through all that treatment because I wanted to fight. I had dreams, I had aspirations, and that cancer was not going to take it away from me. I fought as hard as I could. Sometimes I felt like I was right on the edge of this cliff, but I fought. I went through everything because I had reason, I had purpose. And that's what we have to do when we're faced with these challenges, is look for that purpose, look for that goal that you have. Because if you can stand there, and if you're put in a position where you have to ask yourself, am I happy with the life that I have lived? Have I done everything that I wanted to do? If the answer is no, then you fight. You fight as hard as you possibly can. Now, I'm not talking whether it's just physical illness, but mental illness, especially now we are in a mental health pandemic. Right now, people are fighting because they are lonely, they are isolated, they are struggling. This is where we need to reach out and we need to fight even harder. Because it's not just about, the physical illness that I had, but right now, because obviously I'm a therapist, I see it. People can't go outside because they're scared of this coronavirus. They can't touch door handles, they can't take the children out, they're isolated, single parents. Everybody's struggling in one way or another. And this is my way of giving back. All them people that help me, I've tried to volunteer in the hospitals, but obviously I can't right now because of the pandemic. And I've been given a gift, the gift of a second chance. And this is what I want to do. I want to help you. It doesn't matter whether it's cancer or not, but I still want to help. Mental health issues come up for many, many reasons. Mine was because I was faced with death. Mine was because I had this fear of walking through life, or my daughter even walking through life without me there to be there to fight her battles for her, because she knows what I'm like. It was nearly taken away from me. I thought I was going to die. But yet I'm here. I'm a grandmother of an 18-month-old, absolutely amazing little, gorgeous little girl. I'm married to the most amazing guy. My daughter, my sister, my mum. I've got a lot going for me. I've got private practice. I'm working for an amazing company. But I feel what I've been through, I need to pay it forward. I need to help other people. Now, cancer isn't pack your bags, you're done. Cancer is, I feel, for me, it was the universe's way of sticking a rocket up my backside and saying you need to stop, you need to slow down. Now, when I was diagnosed with the cancer, I was working 2 jobs. I was doing a master's. I was looking after my mum. I had my daughter. I was trying to do washing. I was literally at meeting myself coming back. I was having panic attacks. My anxiety was through the roof. I was trying to do everything all at once. Didn't work. So I feel like maybe that was the universe's way of saying, slow down, stop, take a minute, or a year. It was the only way that I was going to stop. Pretty harsh, but sometimes that's what needs to happen. I honestly believe there's a reason why everything happens. Now, call me a cynic, but I think that's why I got the cancer, and I'm not going to allow that to take over my life. Now, when we're faced with challenges, we have 2 decisions to make. And this is with anything, any kind of illness, tragedy, anybody who's suffering with PTSD, obviously PTSD is something completely different, but we have 2 options. We can either let it define who we are, or we can let it mould who we are. Now, defining it is living it every single day. Instead of defining who we are through the illness, we can let it mould our decisions. We can look at things differently. We can ask ourselves questions when we're worried and stressing about something. So let's look at the logical side of it. Is what I'm worried about going to be a worry in a week's time? Is it going to be affecting me in a week's time? If the answer is no, is it worth getting yourself into a panic about? I honestly believe that stress is a contributor of me getting diagnosed, without a doubt. Now, it could be genetic, it could be anything like that, but I honestly believe that stress, worry and overworking myself had a massive effect on me. So I understand that I've been, talking for 35 minutes, and I'm just wondering if anybody's got any questions. It could be about mental health, it could be about, the cancer side of it. Does anybody have any kind of questions that they'd like to ask? And trust me, I'm not backwards at coming forwards. If you've got something to ask, just ask it. Anybody? I can keep talking. And as you can tell, this is the first time I've done a Facebook Live, and I'm hoping to do more, but around mental health, anxiety, depression, postnatal depression, borderline personality disorder, OCD, bereavement. I have a lot of experience in all areas, but I wanted to kind of come on today to let people know that they're not alone. And even though I am a fully qualified therapist, it can affect me too. So with that in mind, I'm just kind of thinking that obviously, I've spoken for quite a while. But I absolutely do feel fantastic after the fight. When I was going through it, I gained a lot of weight. I struggled a lot. But I had people around me. And just to kind of put it into perspective now, I have a really, really good life in spite of being diagnosed with cancer. I've got my own private practice, flourishing private practice. It's doing really well. I've met amazing friends because of the cancer. I met a certain friend, and if she's on, she'll know exactly who I'm talking about. When I went into Maggie's Centre one day, never been in there, the one up at Christie's before. And she's become an amazing friend. I had no intentions of going in there, I had no reason to go in there. But because of that, I feel like I've got a lifelong friend. So there's a lot of good things that have coming out of being diagnosed with the cancer. It's not all bad. It's about what we take from it. I could sit here and whinge and cry and go, oh, poor me. But you know what? There's absolutely no way I'm going to let the cancer define who I am. Yeah, I'm still going through treatment now. I'm going to be having an operation soon to take out my ovaries and things, and but it is what it is. Can't change it. So I'm going to work with what I've got. Life isn't simple, it isn't straightforward. And things do get thrown at us. But it's how we deal with it. You can let it define who you are. Or you can kick it up the arse and say, not a chance. Live the life that you've imagined. I think Einstein said, when you change the way that you look at things, the things you look at change. And I live my life through that saying. It's an amazing saying because there's another way that we can look at it also. Why do we continuously live our lives through others' opinions? If somebody thinks a certain way, it's looking at them going, why don't they like me? Why don't they like me? Do they think I'm ugly? Do they think... It's not about what other people think about us. Because I tell you this now, what other people think about us is not our problem. It's theirs. If you know you're a good person and you know you've tried your best, nothing else matters. I have 3 rules that I live my life by since the cancer. And one of them is, did I try my best? Did I go out of my way to hurt that person? And yeah, did I try my best? Did I go out of my way to hurt that person? And am I living each day as if it was my last? And if the answers are like yes, no, yes, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because if you know you're a good person, why do you have to prove yourself to somebody else? And if you feel like you have to prove yourself, then there's an issue going on. And that's when you look inside and find out what's going on for you. That's where therapy comes in hand, because I've had therapy now. Just because I'm qualified doesn't mean that I'm, superhuman. I went to see a counsellor. Best thing I ever did. That brick wall, it's now gone. I got the help that I needed, and I'm not ashamed to say that. Cancer turned my life upside down. It turned my friends' lives upside down, my family's life upside down. I had a friend that brought me like a big case of like food, because she wanted to help. Some people just didn't know what to do. I lost friends because of it. Somebody who I was friends with for like 20 odd years. I told them that I was diagnosed in the January and they didn't ring me till the August. It is what it is. I don't stress anymore. And especially don't stress the small things. What's the point? It's not going to define who I am. And if I can take anything from it, it's don't take things for granted. Don't take family for granted. Loved ones, friends, the people that matter were there. The people that didn't weren't. I'm okay. I'm more than okay. Every now and again, I'll catch a glimpse of something, whether it's a sunrise, sunset, the smile on my granddaughter's face, the first steps, my certificates up on the wall, my life coaching diploma. All this was since I was diagnosed, and I don't think I would have had it since if I weren't diagnosed. But you know what? I'm now 39, cancer free, and I intend to stay that way. But it was all about getting up here sorted. Look after your mental health. It's a massive thing at the moment, especially with the pandemic. But you've got to look after you. Look after the people around you. Be kind. Be loving. And if you don't like someone, don't put yourself in their circle. You surround yourself with negativity, you'll feel negative. Surround yourself with positivity. Do good things. And being selfish is a good thing. It's looking after oneself. You've got to. Nobody else takes air into your lungs for you apart from you. Nobody else puts one foot in front of the other for you apart from you. Look after yourself. Take care of you. It's okay to do that. And yeah, it's selfish, but it's a bloody good thing. I love that word. It's great. You've got to look after you. Be kind. Be caring. And the thing is, if you've got children, imagine them sat in front of you. Imagine saying things about what you say to yourself to them. So, for instance, would you say to your child, imagine your child there, would you say to him, you're not important, put your feelings last. Don't care about you because you don't matter. If the answer is no, you wouldn't say that to somebody that you love, then why would you say it to yourself? It's time to look after you now. No matter what your fight was or is, it's time to look in the mirror and go, you know what? I'm going to look after me now. And you're going to be fantastic after the fight. because that's what it is. Life is a fight sometimes, but that's okay, because things worth fighting for are the things that are worth it, and your life is worth it. So be fantastic after your fight. I'm going to try and do one of these maybe once a month. I'm going to talk about mental health. I'm going to talk about what's important, and I'd like to kind of reach out with an olive branch. If anybody wants to speak to me about any kind of mental health issues, anything that they're struggling with, a bit of advice, guidance, anything like that, feel free to drop me a message privately. It'll be completely confidential, and I'm happy to help, because this is what I'm here for. This is why I survived the worst thing that you could imagine. Being diagnosed wasn't the issue, it was the treatment, and I kicked the arse out of it. Sorry about my language, but I did. But I'm here for a reason, so if you do need any help, please feel free to drop me a message. And I probably think that's maybe a good time to end the live. Good luck, and if there's anything that you need, give me a shout. But I hope you're fantastic after your fight.